Good morning and welcome to the News Hub. I'm Ashby Jones, sitting in today for Simon Constable. Well, guess who's returning for another visit? That's right, the Polar Vortex. Much of the East Coast is bracing for brutally cold temperatures this week. And WeatherBELL Analytics chief forecaster Joe Bastardi joins us. Joe, hello, thanks for being here. We just got over this last Polar Vortex ordeal. It's hard to believe we're going to be going through this again. Tell us what's going on here.
Well, it fits with the pattern, Ashby. I know not everybody gets a chance to look at what we've been saying at WeatherBELL since back in the fall, but the pattern's very reminiscent of the winter of 17, 18, and 93, 94. We have very similar water temperatures in the Pacific and the Atlantic, and if you get a similar setup with the ocean temperatures, you're going to get similar weather, and those winters were brutal.
Now we're only experiencing a portion of the polar vortex this time, as opposed to last time when we really got a bigger chunk of it, but that's kind of small consolation, right? Because it's still going to be really cold. Tell us about what's going on here.
Well, it's where the origin of the air mass is coming from, and the next two air masses that come in are mighty cold, but they originate over the Canadian archipelago. The air masses that enter the country this weekend and on into next week come from Siberia. And we got all these people focusing on this polar vortex. The problem is that the amount of high pressure in the low levels of the atmosphere and the origin of the high pressure is just as important. So if you get a high pressure coming out of Siberia, it gets delivered, it doesn't make a difference where the vortex is. I've seen record-breaking lows with the vortex way off the playing field, for goodness sake. So there's a lot of hype about this, but it fits with the pattern of the trough in the east and central United States, ridge near the west coast. It's something we forecasted, we were expecting, we warned our clients about it. We had our clients warn January 9th, Ashby. The market started saying winter's over, all right? And we said, no. It's coming big time the last 10 days of January. So if I sound uppity about this, it's because WeatherBELL's been leading the way on it.
Gotcha. Okay, now we're going to put up a map here with some kind of crazy-looking colors. Talk to us about what we're seeing here, Joe, if you would.
Well, that purplish area there is something that I don't remember seeing since perhaps the late 70s, where you get 10 days of 15 degrees Fahrenheit below normal over the eastern part of the United States. That's not that hard to do in the northern plains. It's hard, but it's much harder to do near the eastern part of the United States. The blue is 10 below normal. The greenish white is 5 below normal. And this is going to put an immense pressure on a lot of people. I called it last week, 9 days ago, said we were looking at a crisis of cold, because if you look at what happened with the last outbreak, which was relatively short-lived, there's power outages all over the place. Cities are running out of salt to fight the snow with. So it could lead to dire consequences here.
Now, Joe, as we know in the Northeast, we've got this Super Bowl, this little football game coming up next month. Is it too soon to talk about February? What might we be looking at heading into next month?
I look for February to be a cold, stormy month. The center of the cold may pull back into the plains and into the west, much like December, but enough cold around to lead to plenty of snow and ice events from the southern plains into the mid and north Atlantic states. February 1994. For those of you who remember that, a very close analog to this. As far as the Super Bowl, I think it's cold right up to the Super Bowl. And right now, the models are saying, and we're in a cold pattern, let's put it that way. Even though we might warm up a little bit before the bowl game, we're treading on thin ice here because there's a lot of cold air around, and there's probably going to be another snowstorm in the Northeast in a week before this thing. So there's a lot going on. And we've been thinking this pattern would be cold and stormy around Super Bowl time, and I think it's going to be.
Thanks very much, Joe. Bundle up, stay warm. We really appreciate your being here. Joe Bastardi from WeatherBELL Analytics.